everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Roundup. Well, Blizzard are looking to axe some more jobs, and one of their offices is actually planning to strike them on the launch day of a WoW expansion, so that's a little bit ouch. Then also, speaking of ouch, well, the PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan is responding to a few PS5 pain points. Also, Ubisoft have dealt with the Skull and Bones studio head in a bit of a strange situation, and there's a whole bunch more news as well. In this video that is brought to you by yesterday's video. Seriously, right? If you are waiting for Cyberpunk 2077 and you want a banging set of video games to just go play and enjoy, then hit that video up. It's the sort of thing where if videos are not juicy drama, well, you don't even get to know about them because even if you're subscribed to the channel, yeah, they don't make the algorithm pop, so YouTube doesn't decide to let you know. So we gotta call them out sometimes. Okay, let's go. All right, PlayStation stuff. So their CEO has, of course, been doing the interview circuit, and yeah, he dropped a bunch of details. We're going to start off with the, I think, obvious problem. It's one that many people have experienced, and that is storage. He was asked, basically, if the PS5's limited storage was causing problems to players, and he said this: "We're not hearing that." To which I say, sir, are you deaf? He suggested that plans may change once players get to grips with the consoles, and that he thinks we'll be okay overall. It was really weird. He said that they monitored hard drive usage on the PS4 and they made their PS5 decisions based on that. Now, that to me sounds like a load of bull. Now, I'm not sold that 664 usable gigabytes is anywhere near enough, and I have had, in my PC gaming setup, one terabyte SSD for my games for years, and I constantly have to delete stuff off it. It sucks. And here's the other thing. Really? They're using PS4 data to validate that? Well, guess what? Would that data not be biased, perhaps, by the storage size of the PS4, which, if you were going all digital all the time, wouldn't particularly be great. Of course, the PS4 had discs, so I think that's basically all very, very silly. Black Ops Cold War takes up 133 gigabytes. That's like, around 20%? Man, that's not okay. Also, the PS5 doesn't support extra SSDs at launch, and you can't store games on an external drive either right now. So, when they say that criticism is not stuff that they're hearing, maybe the problem is with them. And I'd also say this: we're at the start of a console generation. People don't have that many games to shove on their PS5, right? And here's the thing. If you get a situation where people are playing COD Blops Cow, right, and they're playing that for the year that it's out, well, they'll always want that game installed. Well, there you go. That's just 20% of your storage lopped off all the time. Maybe they're also playing Destiny 2. Oh dear, there's another whatever percentage of your storage lopped off all the time because you play 2 live games. So, no, I basically entirely reject what Jim Ryan is saying. I think that they absolutely should have given people more usable storage by default. Not everyone has got gigabit internet, come on. Now, the other sort of next-gen controversy is game pricing, and this is something where I maybe will find myself being a little bit more agreeable with Jim. He basically weighed in game pricing, saying that they think that $70 is a fair price for games when compared to other forms of entertainment. But, of course, $70, that has been reserved for the big first-party titles, and that is something that Jim says basically reflects the cost of development for those games. And I suppose, yeah, like a new God of War game that is going to be made by a team of a few hundred for a good number of years, and then is not going to be full of the types of business practices that we do not like the microtransactions and all of that stuff. Yeah, I'm actually okay to pay a premium price for a premium experience that respects my time. Now, that pricing is why, say, Demon's Souls remake costs $70, while Sackboy costs $60. So that's what's going on there. Now, Jim actually did call out Bloomberg's recent suggestion that Sony had initially considered pricing games even higher than $70 as categorically untrue, but he, of course, could just be saying that. It's an interesting thing, right? As consumers, we obviously always want a better deal. But if you look at indie games, you see that variable pricing is something that makes sense. You can price your game based on the value that it delivers. And if you're able to do that, then you can make games targeted at different price points. If I look at a game like Cyberpunk 2077, to be completely honest with you, I don't know, man. Like, could that be actually delivering more like $80 of value or $90 of value in terms of the amount of content and quality of the experience? Yes. So I think it's an interesting thing. Let me know down below. What do you think? And I know you're not going to be like, well, I wish I could be charged $30 more for a game. Obviously, that's silly. But just in terms of principle, I'd be curious. Now, Jim also continued to not really comment on things that matter that much, saying that he had basically nothing to say, that's his quote, on if the next God of War would hit the PS4 as well. But he did say that with the cross-gen releases, games are built from the ground up for each platform. What does that mean? Well, I actually think that basically means nothing in terms of how game development actually, I think, works and engines and stuff. I think that's kind of overstating what's going on there. I mean, obviously, you'll be deploying two separate builds with, different, settings and targets and whatever for those two consoles. I suppose maybe he's meaning that there are some features that are maybe unique to the PS5 that they would then have to sub out for something else on the PS4. I'm thinking about if there's any gameplay impacting parts or gameplay impacting things that really rely on the new SSD. But anyway, that's what he said. And he did drive home that the PS5 would not be held back by the 4. That is an important thing, right? And it's something that, we're probably going to see a bit. I'm really curious to see how Halo Infinite scales, and will it feel like a game that's a bit hamstrung when it comes out? Now, it is a tricky business decision, because look, the PS5, PS5 only game will probably unlock more top end. If it's PS5 only, it will make more sense to do, features and stuff that could literally only work on the PS5. But that said, you've got 110 million PS4s out there. Yeah, selling stuff to those PS4s is just good business. So, that's the PS5 update. Look, we just got ours in the office. Matt's literally through that wall playing it right now, and there's not much to say, really, that you've not already heard. The controller is bloody cool. Haptics are awesome. It is a very big boy. It has fast load times. The Spider-Man's great. Demon's Souls is great. Look, there's not much we can say that's unique, because we got it in the EU release date, not the US one. So, let's move on. Activision Blizzard are set to cut up to 30 jobs in their Asia-Pacific offices, according to MCV, with a spokesperson saying that basically they wanted to centralize roles within their Sydney office and move to an outsourced setup. Now, that is interesting to me. It does make, you could say, it does sort of make sense to consolidate your roles, to streamline there, and then when you need more capacity to do that in an outsourced manner, because that means you're obviously committing to less in the long term. And technically, if you do have a fixed budget, you could then be a little bit more agile with getting exactly the talent that you need for whatever situation when you need it on more of a freelance basis. So that's probably what they're thinking for their justification. Obviously, though, it is people who are going to perhaps be losing their jobs at Activision Blizzard. Therefore, it is a story that will explode in the land of gaming news. But at the end of the day, a company should be able to make decisions like this based on their own needs. So as much as Activision Blizzard can be a pack of dicks and stuff like that, yeah, if they want to change the structure of whatever in their office, they can do that. Now, obviously, if they do that in a way that is short-sighted, that can damage them. It can lead to brain drain and problems like that we have discussed on this channel. And if they do it in a very blunt manner, it can lead to situations like, the Versailles office, where they're killing that office. It seems like the French government aren't particularly thrilled about the whole situation. Staff are obviously not thrilled about the whole situation. The union is fired up. So, yeah, there's that. Now, this is all in the wider context of what they've actually got planned, which is to hire like mad, but for development roles, of which they want 2,000 more. To be honest with you, right? As much as it would be fine to sit here and, try to really stoke up the flames and stuff, this just does seem like pretty typical restructuring to me that generally does happen in businesses. Now, the situation over in France is a bit larger, though, in terms of the amount of employees impacted, and we've now learned that there is a planned strike that will coincide with the release date of World of Warcraft's next expansion. So, yeah, that's spicy enough, and if the bid is anything to go by and the delay that it required, Shadowlands may be a little bit more buggy than we've been used to with WoW. Now, I doubt that strike will save the office or anything like that, but then again, I will say I am not fully familiar with the array of options that French labour laws provide staff in a situation as large as this one, specifically like when it's a very, very large company, that's the parent. Anyway, that's a Blizzard update, let's move on. Okay, remember when we did our video highlighting just what the hell's going on with Embracer Group, right? And just the crazy scale? it's got even larger, right? They've just acquired 12 studios. This is including Flying Wild Hog. They are obviously of Shadow Warrior fame, real fun game. So 12 studios and a PR firm. 1,250 new employees. That's a lot of headcount. That's a lot of payroll. They really do have money to expand. It's pretty impressive. Now, as is usual for Embracer Group, this batch of studios is mostly in the indie and AA domain, and that very much seems like a domain that they want to rule. I think they are realizing perhaps that there are many different niches of video games out there, and that the super big companies are obviously, they're targeting the most lucrative things there, but that there's so much left around and, left between the cracks, that seemingly a massive group like this with an absolutely stupendous headcount actually can make a lot of money by filling all of those cracks. So, an interesting situation. And speaking of interesting situations, well, the managing director of Ubisoft Singapore has been removed from his post following the result of a leadership audit. Now, he had been there since 2018, and he was overseeing development of Skull and Bones, a game that is noticeably very, very missing. Now, for the context here, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, pretty great game actually, and that was all built off what they had done, Ubisoft Singapore that is. They had worked on the boating part of Assassin's Creed 3, and I believe that's what led to Black Flag being so big and having so much of the boat stuff, which was actually all pretty cool. But Skull and Bones, that's been the thing to really capitalize on Ubisoft doing boats pretty good sometimes, and where the hell is that game? I mean, seriously, where is it? Where are the details? What's going on? So there's a bit of me that wonders just what's going on in the studio in general. But as to this guy specifically, well, the email comes out really quite rough. It says that after a leadership audit, it was, quote, impossible for him to continue with his role. So that's kind of ouch. Now, we don't know what actually he's being removed for, but there had been allegations floating around of suggestive comments to staff and soliciting kisses at work events, which seems really... What's up with these people? So, oddly enough though, he wasn't fired or anything like that. He is going to be remaining at Ubisoft, just not at this particular studio. So that's not really the hard-hitting sort of purge-like stuff that Ubisoft had almost hyped up in their responses to what had been going on, right? That really sort of came out over the summer. But then again, I will also say we do not know the full details of this investigation. Now, obviously, Ubisoft aren't just going to go out and tell us, I think, right? Unless they're really pressured to do so. So hopefully, to get some clarity in this situation and to understand what's going on, and if Ubisoft did take a balanced response, or maybe they were too light or too heavy, hopefully then a journalist will be able to dig up this report, right? Because whatever this guy's done, Ubisoft themselves say it's impossible for him to continue as the studio head. So seemingly it would be large enough. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jason Schreier, if you're bored, maybe look into this one. Somebody? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. All right, Patrick Soderlund, the man that saw Anthem seemingly be flashy and be like Iron Man, and then, he clapped, and 18 months later, or however long it was, the game came out and was a bloody mess. Well, Patrick Soderlund obviously left EA. He certainly did attach himself to a number of unfortunate causes, such as defending to the death Battlefield 5, really missing the core Battlefield audience quite impressively, and obviously the Anthem stuff. Well, he left, he formed a studio, and he's recently given an update that includes some stuff on his first project, a free-to-play military action title that's now in full production, and he also mentioned a second game, a team-based shooter. We needed more of those. It's unnamed. The only thing we've seen is a few character designs. And Soderlund does say it puts dynamicism, physicality, and destruction front and center. There are assault weapons and swords. Swords are cool. It does look kind of hero shootery, and I will say at a very basic level, I'm not that interested in that. But if whatever this dynamicism and destructibility means, maybe that could bring something innovative or unique to that market, but certainly it's a crowded as hell market. None of this seems particularly interesting to me, and Patrick seemingly even admitted, a little bit of that. He wrote that he thought he was done with PvP shooters, because he'd worked on so many. Obviously, he came from DICE, which is Battlefield, but he did say that these projects were too irresistible to ignore. So, who knows? Maybe they have a special sauce. Certainly, I like competition in the market. If Patrick does have some special sauce, I would like to see it. But otherwise, I'm skeptical because it's a crowded market. Star Wars Squadrons seems to be doing decently successfully, actually. Now, it was weird. The HOTAS Dead Zones kind of killed it for me on launch, but, you know, the game, right, look, it's not going to be a perfect game for everyone. The campaign is a little bit naff, but if you want to put on a VR headset and go around in an X-Wing blasting things, yes, this game certainly does that very well. Apparently well enough that it's now getting 2 sets of free DLC. Now, the first one is really small. November 25th, it adds a new map to multiplayer, as well as 4 component types. The second, though, is larger and will release by the end of the year, and it brings the B-Wing and the B-Wing Bomber and the TIE Defender plus custom matches. Now look, right, that's not groundbreaking stuff, but it's nice to see free updates for a game like this one. This was really supposed to be a one-shot game. Like, EA Motive previously said there were not any plans for post-launch content for this game, and well, now there's some post-launch content. And I think for a game like this, you know what, just throwing a few maps, the odd ship out there, yeah, that's all it would really need to keep ticking over, so it's good to see they're actually committing to that. Next, a bit more on the Capcom ransomware attack, where obviously we covered that. We talked a lot about, you know, the game side of things, you know, the Resi Evil Village date apparently being April 2021, a potential Dragon's Dogma 2 for Q2 2022, which, by the way, very cool. Dragon's Dogma, holy shit, that is such a good game, and when you actually look at what the full scope of that game is versus what it actually released as, wow, there's a lot more in Dragon's Dogma land. Of course, there's a Netflix show for that as well, but the other thing is a lot of personal info got out there, and it's really bad. Names, signatures, passport info, HR info of staff, including a whole bunch of former staff. And I mean, that's the thing that actually, you know, identity fraud is a serious concern here. Now, Capcom apparently have not been dealing with this great, and people are pretty worried. Capcom have said they've reached out, but an unknown source told IGN that Capcom had not reached out, and instead, the affected people had been met with silence from them, which doesn't really instill confidence. So right now, those people are just contacting, you know, credit bureaus and stuff like that, trying to secure their info. Pretty rough, this hack, to be real with you, and we still don't really know what the resolution is. So, bit of a somber note to end things with, but things do have to end. But your YouTube viewing experience on our channel doesn't have to end, because you can go and look at 13 absolutely banging Cyberpunk games. Okay, look, a few of them towards the end get a little bit wacky, right? If you want some absolutely wild Euro trash, then, you know, just Divine Cybermancy's wild. It's wild. It's one of the things there, but no, seriously, like most of that list is like high 90s on Steam, and so many of them are these experiences that you will not have like heard of or seen. So look, if you are hyped for Cyberpunk 2077, and really, if you only know that Cyberpunk is a genre because of that game and because of CD Projekt Red, yeah, you owe it to yourself to watch that video, because you'll learn so much more of what actually can be done within that genre. Also, David Bowie appears for a brief period, and there's a David Cage game there, which is honestly very strange. That's it for me. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.